What I'm about to tell you is beyond comprehension. It's the kind of thing that makes your blood run cold when you realize how deep this rabbit hole goes. Today, I'm talking about the real rulers of the world. BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street, the big three asset managers who are puppet masters pulling the strings of the entire global economy. Welcome to the shadow economy. BlackRock controls $10.6 trillion in assets. You heard me right, trillions. That's more than half the GDP of the entire United States, folks. This isn't just a big company. This is a super entity, a shadowy colossus, operating behind the scenes. And I'm telling you right now, it's not your money they're controlling, it's your lives. You might think, just investing money, right? It's not like they own it. Wrong. They don't need to own it to control it. This is financial warfare at its finest, people. They've perfected a technique called passive investing, a loophole that allows them to buy up shares in nearly every major company across the board. They hold pieces of everything: Amazon, Apple, Google, you name it. They have stock in 95% of Fortune 500 companies, and they claim they're just passive, just going along for the ride. BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street are sitting on top of your pension funds, your 401ks, your insurance savings, the money you've been slaving away for your whole life. They're holding it, they're using it, and you get zero say in what they do with it. It's like a pyramid scheme, but worse, because this time, the pyramid is the entire financial system. They use these index funds and ETFs to buy small stakes in every company, which might sound harmless, but here's the kicker. When you own 5% of a company and everyone else owns fractions of a percent, you're the biggest player at the table. And guess what? The votes, they get the votes. Your retirement savings are the bargaining chips for BlackRock's power plays.
Even if you don't think you're being tracked online, you are. Your internet service provider can see everything you do. Well, there probably isn't a guy sitting in a corner office watching your every move. Many ISPs do compile anonymous browsing logs and sometimes sell them to advertising companies. Now more than ever, is it important to protect your data online? That's why we use private internet access. With private internet access, you can safeguard all your online activity with military-grade encryption, protecting you from hacks, governments, and even your own internet provider. Plus, they have a strict no-logs policy, which means they don't track or store any of your browsing history, so your privacy stays private. One click and you're protected, no complicated setup required. That's why we are self-use private internet access for everything we do online. Get 83% off and 4 months free using our link for a limited time. You can click the link in the description to try it out today.
This isn't investing. This is universal ownership. They don't have a stake in the game. They own the entire casino. When you look at the big picture, it's clear. We're not dealing with a financial firm. We're dealing with an empire. BlackRock's strategy is to own a slice of everything so that they're always winning, no matter which companies rise or fall. It's a new kind of monopoly, a neo-monopoly that transcends traditional competition. Think about it. If they own pieces of all the major airlines, all the big tech companies, all the major banks, then they don't care which one wins because they profit either way. This isn't capitalism, folks. This is something far more sinister. It's like a financial octopus. Its tentacles wrapped around every sector, squeezing tighter and tighter. Why would they want control over every aspect of the economy? Because it's not about the money, folks. It's about the control. This is a move straight out of the globalist playbook. The same playbook used by the World Economic Forum. Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, isn't just a finance guy. He's a globalist insider, rubbing elbows with Klaus Schwab, pushing for ESG scores, and advocating for stakeholder capitalism, which is just fancy talk for centralized control. And here's the kicker. These guys aren't accountable to anyone. They've created a closed-loop system where they own shares in each other. That's right. BlackRock's biggest investors are Vanguard and State Street, and vice versa. It's an endless money go-round, a self-reinforcing feedback loop of power and influence. It's the ultimate financial power grab. and the average American is completely clueless about it. We've established that BlackRock isn't just an asset manager. They're the puppet masters, quietly manipulating the strings of the global economy. Now, we're diving into their secret weapon, the revolving door between BlackRock and the US government. This isn't some far-fetched conspiracy theory. This is documented fact, and the implications are terrifying. Let's break this down. BlackRock is so powerful that in 2008, during the financial crisis, the US government didn't turn to a bank for help. They turned to BlackRock. They were brought in to help manage the bailout of Bear Stearns and AIG. That's right. Instead of being regulated like the mega banks they overshadow, they were invited to play the role of savior. And do you know what happens when you become the go-to fixer for financial disasters? You get access, folks. You get influence. Larry Fink, the head honcho of BlackRock, didn't just stop at helping with the bailout. He started planting his people in high-level positions across the government. There's a revolving door spinning at warp speed between BlackRock, the Treasury Department, the Federal Reserve, and even the White House. Since 2004, at least 84 former government officials and central bankers have found a cushy landing at BlackRock. You think that's a coincidence? Let's talk about Larry Fink himself. He's not just the CEO of a big company. He's a globalist insider, a kingmaker. He sits on the board of the World Economic Forum, rubbing elbows with Klaus Schwab and the rest of the elites who are planning the Great Reset. You remember that, right? The Great Reset is about resetting the world's economy into a controlled system where they own everything and you own nothing. Fink tried to get himself appointed as Hillary Clinton's Treasury Secretary in 2016. He wasn't just vying for power. He was preparing to be the gatekeeper of American finance, and it gets worse. BlackRock has direct ties to the Federal Reserve, which, let's be honest, is neither federal nor a reserve. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the Fed turned to BlackRock again to help administer emergency lending programs. This means BlackRock was essentially printing money and deciding where it goes. Imagine that. The same company managing your pension fund is also deciding how much money gets pumped into the economy. This isn't free market capitalism, folks. This is financial fascism. Now, here's the part that should really get your blood boiling. In 2008, after they played a central role in managing the bailout, Congress realized that these asset managers were too big to fail. They wanted to regulate them like banks, because they control more money than any bank on earth. But what did BlackRock do? They doubled their lobbying spending and ran a super targeted ad campaign in Washington, D.C., pushing back against any attempts to regulate them. And here's the kicker. BlackRock gets to self-certify their compliance with passive investment rules. That's right. They get to audit themselves. It's like giving a thief the keys to the bank and telling him to guard the vault. They submit letters every year declaring they're passive investors and don't need to be regulated like banks. It's a legal loophole, folks, and they're exploiting it to the max. It's financial anarchy, and they're the ones making the rules. But here's the thing. It's not just Washington, folks. BlackRock has global connections. They've got ties to central banks in Canada, Europe, and even the IMF. The IMF, by the way, is pushing for a central bank digital currency that would give governments control over every dollar you spend. And who do you think will help manage this new digital financial system? You guessed it. BlackRock. This is the global financial coup, the quiet takeover of the world's economic systems by a few mega corporations and their elite partners in government. And it's not just happening in America, it's happening worldwide. BlackRock isn't just a company, it's a globalist tool, a financial weapon being used to shape the future without your consent. BlackRock owns a piece of Amazon, Google, and Facebook, and these companies own the digital infrastructure we all rely on. They control what you see, what you hear, and how you interact online. It's the perfect storm for total control. And they've got their tentacles in everything: airlines, banks, tech companies, and even the food you eat. But what's the real cost of all this control? How does it impact you, the average American who's just trying to make ends meet? Let's dig into the great squeeze, a financial stranglehold that's bleeding us dry. The squeeze on wages and prices. You ever wonder why everything feels more expensive these days, yet your paycheck isn't stretching as far? It's not your imagination. This is by design, folks. BlackRock and their partners in the Big Three, Vanguard and State Street, have stakes in every major company you can think of, from your local grocery store to the tech giants that control your phone. They're all on the same payroll. Here's what's happening. These asset managers are pushing for maximum corporate profits at any cost, and that cost is passed directly onto you. They've got a direct incentive to squeeze workers and raise prices across the board because they control the entire supply chain. Look at the airlines. The big three own pieces of every major airline. You think they're interested in lowering ticket prices? No way. They make more money by keeping fares high and cutting costs, which means fewer staff, crammed flights, and higher prices for you. And it's not just airlines. Take a look at the big retail brands: Nike, Adidas, Under Armour. They're all part of BlackRock's portfolio. They don't care which brand wins because they own them all. Competition has become a theater of illusion, a fake battle where no matter who you choose, the profits end up in the same place. It's a neo-monopoly, a new form of monopoly where companies don't need to merge because they're already controlled by the same puppet masters. Back in the day, owning shares meant having a voice. You could vote on corporate decisions, hold executives accountable, and actually have a say in the direction of a company. That's been erased, folks. Today, BlackRock and the other asset managers have consolidated that power. Your 401k, your pension fund, it's all just fuel for their voting power. And what do they vote for? More executive bonuses, more stock buybacks, and less money going into the pockets of hardworking Americans. Let's talk about stock buybacks for a second. This is where companies use their profits to buy back their own shares instead of reinvesting in the business or raising wages. It's a way to artificially inflate stock prices, making the rich even richer while regular employees get left in the dust. And who's cheering this on from the sidelines? BlackRock, because higher stock prices mean higher management fees and bigger profits for them. This is a rigged game, folks, and the house always wins. Here's where it gets even darker. Universal ownership isn't just about holding shares in every company. It's about creating a network of control that eliminates real competition. BlackRock's strategy isn't to bet on the winning horse, it's to own the entire racetrack. They hold major stakes in all the big players in every sector: tech, retail, banking, airlines, energy. It's a web of influence so extensive that it's nearly impossible for any outsider to compete. Think about this. If BlackRock owns significant shares in both Nike and Adidas, why would they want these companies to engage in a price war? They wouldn't. It's better for their bottom line if the companies keep prices high and split the market. This is why everything from sneakers to cereal costs more today. It's not inflation, it's price fixing at the highest levels, disguised as, quote, market trends. And now we get to the endgame, folks. This isn't just about profits. This is about control, plain and simple. BlackRock isn't just managing money. They're shaping policy, influence over the Federal Reserve, the IMF, and the World Economic Forum. Puts them in the driver's seat of the global financial system. They're pushing for things like central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, which would give the government total control over your money. You step out of line, they freeze your account. This is the financial equivalent of the Patriot Act, giving them complete surveillance over your spending. Larry Fink has been vocal about stakeholder capitalism, which sounds nice on paper, but is just a Trojan horse for centralized economic control. It's the same ideology behind the Great Reset. You will own nothing, and you will be happy. Who's going to own everything then? The asset managers, the financial elites, the very people who've been pulling the strings. You might be sitting there thinking, this sounds hopeless, what can we do? These asset managers operate in the shadows, counting on the fact that most people have no idea what's going on. It's time to shine a light on their tactics, expose their influence, and push back against this financial tyranny. We need real oversight. We need regulations that treat these asset managers like the banks they are, holding them accountable for their outsized control over our economy. We need to take back our shareholder rights, demand transparency, and start making noise before it's too late. Because if we don't, we're looking at a future where the middle class is obliterated. The economy is centrally controlled, and freedom as we know it is nothing but a distant memory.